Because of its exceptional talking ability and intelligence, the African grey parrot is the most popular of the large parrots kept as pets. Once abundant in West Africa, the species has declined rapidly due to the loss of its habitat and the international pet trade. Although Ghana has tried to ban the trade in this species, thousands of African grey parrots, known as red-tails, are smuggled out every year via nearby Côte d'Ivoire and Togo, destined to the international pet trade. In November 1992, EIA was asked by the Ghanaian government to examine this illegal trade. Parrot specialists have stated that it would take years of study to understand fully the effects of trade on a parrot population. So far, there have been only 45 days of study of the grey parrot in Ghana. Factors such as density, reproduction, habitat requirements and mortality remain unstudied. However, it has been acknowledged that past trade, both legal and illegal, has depleted the population. In practice, it is profits, not science, that have governed the trade.
But don't forget the businessman is never satisfied.
Wild birds inevitably suffer in the trade process. They're caught by a method known as liming. Sticks smeared with glue are placed in a treetop. From a hide, the trapper uses tame call birds to attract the wild parrots. Seen here in South America, the process is very traumatic for the parrots. Liming can result in broken wings or legs. Plumage is often severely damaged and the sticky line can be difficult to remove. Other species are often caught by mistake. In West Africa, this Senegal kingfisher was caught while attempting to trap wild African grey parrots. Such bycatches cannot be prevented. The bird is unlikely to survive the ordeal. It may die of stress or be released still covered in glue. It may be eaten as it has no value to the trapper. Conditions for the birds in trade are often appalling. They are often filthy and overcrowded. Disease can kill many birds. Problems transporting wild birds by air mean that 100 airlines now refuse this deadly cargo. This has helped to reduce trade levels, but airlines like Air Afrique and Ghana Airways keep the trade alive. The birds arrive in the US quarantine distressed and exhausted. When Ghana allowed exports of parrots, 26% were either dead on arrival or died during quarantine. Experiments suggest that some parrots may have a level of intelligence previously found only in dolphins and primates. But pet parrots are often kept alone in a cage with little stimulation. These, in a parrot sanctuary, have plucked out their own feathers from boredom, loneliness and stress.
That has to be balanced up with the cost that may be going into the project. Would it be a better? use of that money to provide rural employment or something like that.
What we would like to do is sit down with you to look at a number of things. One, the problems associated with your plan of opening up trade again. What we believe would happen and tell you what we've seen elsewhere.
Daily. He says if you can get Nicholas to write something in the article, that anybody wishing to create anything for the jungle can come along with it there. He says we keep a big box.
And look at other ways of perhaps bringing in income relating to the African grey parrot.
Without
exporting them.
I mentioned to you earlier that we had a marvellous time going and seeing the parrots in their actual habitat, in a dugout canoe. It was a marvellous experience. And I think there's a lot of room for development.
"1,000 kilometers north of Buenos Aires in Argentina, on the border with Paraguay, is a collection of parrots worth millions of pounds. One of Argentina's biggest bird dealers has collected very rare birds from neighbouring countries. His wife explains.
Tenemos loros de Paraguay, Bolivia, Brasil.
And in fact, all these countries have got trade bans, so there should be no trade in their birds at all.
The local president of the Wildlife Society has complained many times. We asked him why the park was set up.
Lo ha hecho porque él es traficante y seguramente lo es desde hace muchos años. Ha logrado algún tipo de convivencia con las autoridades de fauna de Corrientes.
Antonio Chacon is a prominent member of the international pet trade. He supplies wild birds to Europe, the United States and the Far East. He's one of 20 exporters in Argentina. His main commodity is the blue-fronted Amazon, known locally as the talking parrot.
Hace pocos años, relativamente 3-4 décadas, se veían nubes de Amazona estiva.
Nowadays, Amazon parrots are only found in the north of Argentina, and their habitat continues to be destroyed by forestry operations and parrot catchers, who pull the chicks from the nests, always taking every bird.
Que saque el lazo.
Saca el lazo primero. Y míralos así.
Míralos, agarra los loritos, míralos.
Migrant foresters deliberately search for mature trees over 150 years old. These trees are hollow and provide the nesting sites for parrots.
The only reason this tree, this over-mature tree, which is probably more than maybe 200 years old, the only reason it's been chopped down is to catch parrots for the pet trade.
Many catchers have little experience of caring for parrots.
The main problem is that the people that just catch this parrot, they doesn't know how to feed. They got 4 parrots. They are 2 already died, and this one is dying.
The parrots are gathered together by collectors, hundreds at a time. They are force-fed on a diet of maize and water. If the parrots choke, there is an attempt to clear the food from their lungs.
Es que cuando lo sacan del campo no le dan de comer nunca. Y esto ya tiene, y pega, le da y se atora.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Antonio Chacon buys his birds from the collectors. He counts them into his transport cages. This shipment of 425 birds was underdeclared to local authorities to avoid taxes. And this document is the beginning of a meaningless paper trail. Chacon takes his birds on their 1,000-kilometer journey south to Buenos Aires. Corruption is deeply embedded in the bird trade, and Chacon, filmed with a hidden camera, explains that the government is prepared to take money.
Okay?
In one of his Buenos Aires premises, the birds wait for export. And they're still dying. Chacon loads the parrots into air transport cases, which are supposed to be designed to air transport standards. But these cages contravene the voluntary regulations, as is so often the case. The birds can hardly stand up. At the airport, they are weighed and stowed in the cargo shed. Officials check the documents, which underdeclare the value of the shipment to avoid taxes. The paper trail continues. But no one bothers to look at the birds. They are loaded into the rear of the plane's cargo hold, along with other perishables. The journey takes over 12 hours to Europe or the United States, where they will face quarantine.
What we need is for people to stop buying wild birds as pets. That way, there will be nobody going out here into the farming areas, into the bush, to go and catch the birds.